Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. It's been a little while since we've done a year, and we are up to 1986. So let's do it. What's happening in 86? Ronald Reagan is still your president. We had a couple of disasters, both domestic and abroad, in 86. The Challenger explosion occurred. I have vivid memories of that. Just coincidentally, I was homesick that day from school. So I was kind of glued to the television all day watching that unfold. And of course, the Chernobyl disaster over in Ukraine. Glasnost and perestroika are introduced in the Soviet Union. Gorbachev's attempt to reform the system just enough to save the Soviet Union. And of course, that didn't work. Top Gun is released. America. Top Gun. Although it is the very dull Out of Africa that wins Best Picture that year. All right, let's get into the music. So it's been a while. So as usual, remember how this works? I'm going to count down my 5 favorite albums from 1986, from 10 to 1. And then we'll throw in a bunch of honorable mentions at the end because 86 is a pretty good year too. We're still in some good years in my view. I kind of like the early and mid 80s. Well, number 10, I'm starting with Prince and the Revolution, Parade. Now, this was actually a soundtrack to Under the Cherry Moon, I believe. Never saw it. But I think this is notable because I believe this is the final record with the Revolution, right? Before he moved on other configurations. It's kind of an interesting, quirky. I don't. In some ways, it's kind of stripped down and kind of skeletal, but it's also still pretty experimental. Kiss was the big hit off of here, of course. Coming in at number 9. There we go. 9. From Sting. Double live album, Bring On the Night. Now, this was also like officially a soundtrack to a film. I remember seeing it, kind of documentary film. I saw it when it was out, but film's long since forgotten. But this is a pretty great record. Now, typical of Sting hubris, right? He'd only released one solo record, and then he decides to put out a double live album after his solo debut record. But there was reason for this because if you remember, we talked about in the previous year, "Dream of the Blue Turtles," which is Sting's solo debut after leaving the Police, and we talked about how he had a pretty amazing lineup of musicians with him on that record. These great young jazz musicians of the time. Kenny Kirkland and Branford Marsalis and Daryl Jones and Omar Hakim and all that. So these guys, I mean, with guys that good, hearing them in a live setting is the real treat. And so there's actually a good reason to have this record. It's pretty cool. He only had one album of solo material, so he plays some of those songs. Notably, he doesn't play the biggest "If You Love Someone, Set Them Free," which is the biggest hit he had off of his debut. It's not on here, but he plays some other songs off of that record, and then some Police tunes. But it was really interesting because with these jazz musicians, they really kind of play with the arrangements in exciting ways. Like "When the World Is Running Down, You Make the Best of What's Still Around" is this. They really extend it. This ungodly, just amazing uh, piano solo from Kenny Kirkland. It's great jazz piano solo. Anyway, it's an interesting record or live album, I should say. All right, coming in number 8. Speaking of jazz, got Miles Davis, Tutu. Obviously, one of his last records, kind of that late '80s. He's putting out his last material before, I don't remember when he died, but 1990, something like that. Anyway, is one of the last ones. I think this is really fantastic. Now, a lot of this is you got to give credit to Marcus Miller, who does a lot of the arrangements and wrote a lot of the songs. And it was very '80s, a lot of kind of synthy, but it's interesting because it creates a lot of atmosphere on here. and Miles, of course, is Miles. So some good stuff. Good stuff on Tutu. Coming in at number 7, we've got REM with Life's Rich Pageant. I just have this one on CD here, but part of that amazing IRS run, and Begin to Begin is on here. These Days, Cuyahoga, I love. Fall on Me, probably well known. It's like primo REM material here, right? Coming in at number 6. Now, I did a video on this guy a little while back, and I kind of gushed about this record. I think this is the last record in this really great streak of his from the early to mid 80s. Talking about Pete Townsend, another live album. This is Deep End Live. This is really, really good. What's on here? He does a couple of Who tunes, like Pinball Wizard and Behind Blue Eyes, I'm One. But After the Fire is on here, which is great. It's a song he gave to Roger Daltrey. Daltrey had a solo hit with it, but it's cool to hear Pete do it. Yeah, Save It for Later, that great cover he does. Anyway, this is a grower too. You listen to this, it's really good actually, and like I said, I think it caps off that great early to mid '80s string of solo records from Pete Townsend that I just think are fantastic. Number 5, coming in at number 5, got the debut from Bruce Hornsby. This is in his band at the time, The Range. So Bruce Hornsby and The Range, The Way It Is. That's just the way it is. You know, I I really kind of admire Bruce Hornsby. A talented guy, very talented guy. Had a really distinct signature sound and style. I remember when this came out. This was a pretty big hit. This record, then the one that followed this, and kind of into the third record too. Again, had that really distinct Hornsby sound to it. It's kind of this style, this real flowing style of piano. And I remember at the time a lot of hype about around him was this is kind of the next Elton John, Billy Joel, next big piano guy. But then he kind of changed his sound after that third record and went his own way, and played with the Grateful Dead for a while and got a bit more kind of experimental but less commercial. And I, but but his commercial period. Um, this is a great. We're just some great songs. Man, on the Western Skyline and Every Little Kiss, Mandolin Rain. Of course, the title track, River Runs Low is beautiful. It's a really good record. Kind of nice to revisit too, actually. All right, number 4. I don't know. Is number 4 the biggest record of this year? Maybe I don't know. I didn't check the charts or anything on this, but this was huge, but deservedly so. Now there's some controversy around this record. Well, we'll show it to you. Talking about Paul Simon and Graceland, of course. Where Paul Simon plays with a lot of African influences, brings in a lot of African musicians, and plays with them. The controversy, a lot of it is in the songwriting credits. Paul Simon is credited basically for writing most of this stuff. You hear rumblings from some of the musicians involved, some of the African musicians, and there's a lot more collaboration that maybe should have been credited in the credits. But there's interesting too. The last song on here, "All Around the World" or "The Myth of Fingerprints," he did with Los Lobos, and I've read some scathing comments from some of the members of Los Lobos, who basically said they wrote that song, and or at the very least, it was an equal collaboration with Paul Simon. And Los Lobos is not credited, for the songwriting credits. So this, anyway, some interesting stuff there. All of that aside, I mean, this really is this great melding of these African influences and Paul Simon's songwriting. So, kind of Western meets Africa. Um, and the hits are undeniable. I mean, "The Boy in the Bubble," the title track, "You Can Call Me Al," of course. It's Really is great. I really kind of this jubilant sounding record, and was quite creative, quite creative. But we're getting to my top three here. Number three was a huge hit, huge comeback for this guy, and I couldn't be happier because I'm a huge admirer of this guy. I, I think he didn't reach his potential a lot in his solo career. Now, he did, of course, with Traffic, the Blind Faith record. Of course, I'm talking about Steve Winwood, but his huge hit, Back in the High Life, I think is the fullest realization of his, when he's just going for pop music in the charts and does it really well. I love this record. I mean, man, I have loved it ever since it came out. I just sometimes pop music can just be great as pop music, and I think Winwood hits it out of the park here. I mean, the hits, of course, Higher Love and Freedom Overspill, Back in the High Life again. Uh, James Taylor on those great backing vocals. The Finer Things, in my view, is one of the finest sort of, ballads of that '80s synth style. Love that song. Yeah, great stuff. Cool Joe Walsh slide guitar on Freedom Overspill too. That's pretty good. Yeah, he would never reach this peak again. Not even close, honestly, with his solo records. But man, hit it out of the park with that. Number two is a great record. It's a blues record, which is unusual in the '80s for a blues record to be a huge hit. But this was a huge hit. In fact, it got this guy on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. And for a blues artist to get on the cover of Rolling Stone in the '80s, that's a big record. Talking about the Robert Cray Band. So Robert Cray, Strong Persuader. Man, this so good, so good. Robert Cray is he's a double threat. Great singer, great soul blues singer, and obviously a killer guitar player. And kind of more in the BB King style of just real kind of, I don't want to say urban, but those kind of single notes. And God, he's good. Robert Cray is so good. Smoking Gun. That is such a killer song. This hybrid song. I remember the video was huge on MTV. And again, a blues artist. It was basically Robert Cray and Stevie Ray Vaughan, right, in the '80s, sort of led this blues revival. I love Robert Cray. Now, some of his later records, I think he kind of grew less and less distinctive with his studio releases, but this record is just a knockout, man. It's just a knockout. I guess I showed her the title track right next door. Such a catchy chorus. I mean, blues influences, but not afraid to just kind of use, pop structure, choruses and these verses and start to finish, man. What a great band. Love this record. Always love Strong Persuader. But in my number one slot, can there be any doubt? No. If you watch my videos at all, I've done a long time ago. I did a whole deep dive into this record, just on its own. Uh, well, I guess 2 videos ago. I don't know, depending on when we're gonna put up this '86. But a recent video, I did a review of a concert of this guy that I to see recently, and yeah, Peter Gabriel and So. I mean, you've heard me gush about So if you've been watching me long enough. Yeah, I don't need to repeat all that. I mean, you can go watch my deep dive if you want on there. But this record had a huge impact on me when it came out. You know what I'm talking about. There's just certain records that just the right time in your life and just magical to me. I mean, I love this record. Red Rain, the opener, just blows me away. That Stuart Copeland on the cymbals, on the hi hat. Actually, on the hi hat. It's great. You get Stuart Copeland just to play the hi hat because he's like so distinctive on there. Sledgehammer in Your Eyes, Big Time, Tony Levin's all over this record on bass. I mean, this is where Peter Gabriel's artsy side and his sort of, pop side come together kind of more perfectly than ever. You hear the dog barking. Anyway, this is perfect. This is perfect. All right, let's get some honorable mentions here. So, let's start with a CD here from hang on. I'm gonna shut this dog. I'm gonna shut this dog up. Hang on. The dog is no more. No, he's fine. He's fine. I just told him to be quiet. All right. Where was I? Aha. That's where I was. Aha. Their second record, Scoundrel Days. Now, I think it was the previous year. I think it was, where I gushed about their debut, which was their biggest hit here in the United States. All these subsequent Aha records didn't do much here, but they were still pretty big overseas. Great record, just great pop, 80s pop rock. Scoundrel Days, The Swing of Things, Manhattan Skyline, Cry Wolf. Just really good records. I gotta suggest, investigate some Aha. Okay, rapid fire here. Let's talk about some other honorable mentions. I like Madonna's True Blue. I think it's a really great record. Papa Don't Preach, Open Your Heart, Live to Tell, I think is beautiful. That's one of my favorite ballads of hers. I think that's fantastic. True Blue, La Isla Bonita. Yeah, this is superlative stuff. One of her best, I think, actually. I'm a big fan of Eddie Money. I think I've said this before. Now, Eddie Money, he's definitely one where a great hits compilation is the way to go. But I think this is his best overall, studio record. Can't hold back. A little slicker than some of his earlier stuff, but man, it's got Take Me Home on there. I Want to Go Back. Let's see. We Should Be Sleeping was all right. There's another song on? Is it Endless Nights? I think that was another great song. Anyway, Eddie Money, man. Eddie Money's cool. He's cool. Oh, this was huge. Genesis, Invisible Touch. Now, very poppy, I know, but as much of a huge fan as I am of the progressive Genesis, I can also take the pop Genesis too. I mean, this was good stuff. Remember, I saw this tour that year. It was a great show. Great show. Yeah, there's good stuff on here. I'm a Duran Duran fan. Notorious comes out. Down to a Trio here. Roger Taylor had retired. Of course, he comes back in the early 2000s. And Andy Taylor had left under, I'm not sure, circumstances. But they're down to a Trio here, but get a lot of help from producer Nile Rodgers. You can tell that Nile Rodgers, sound was on here all over the place. But man, they're still masters at just great singles. I mean, Notorious, Skin Trade, such great singles. This whole record's pretty good. Shifting gears pretty pretty substantially from Duran Duran. At the Fabulous Thunderbirds, Tough Enough. Of course, featuring Jimmy Vaughan, brother of Stevie Ray Vaughan, older brother of Stevie Ray Vaughan. Great vocals and harmonica of Kim Wilson. So I like this. I like the Fabulous Thunderbirds. Yeah, I really did. It's kind of cool. We Editor was in this band too. We in high school we had a band. Did a bunch of cover songs. We did 2 songs off this record for some reason. Did the title track Tough Enough and Wrap It Up, which was a cover, but we basically modeled our cover off of Fabulous Thunderbirds cover of Wrap It Up. I remember vividly we went to the Miller Lite show at the Astrodome, with the Who and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and anyway, Fabulous Thunderbirds were one of the bands there. I remember with my buddies, we were all there. The guys that were in the band, that we had in high school, we were all there, and we're watching the Fabulous Thunderbirds set, and they played those 2 songs, and we're all excited. We all came to the realization that at least on Wrap It Up, we decided we actually sounded better than they did, at least at that show. I mean, Fabulous Thunderbirds are great though. That was kind of cool. Yeah, it's a similar kind of vibe here. Now I hear a cat. Freaking zoo here, man. Cat's probably gonna barge in this room too. He knows how to open doors. So How about George Thorogood live? That's pretty good. I mean, George Thorogood just like meat and potatoes, no BS. Just kind of boogie rock. You know, yeah, it's good stuff. All right, all right, all right. Let's wrap up here. The Smiths. The Queen is dead. I'm a huge Smiths fan. I mean, you have to be. You got to admire the Smiths. I mean, although honestly, I'm kind of more of a compilation guy with the Smiths, but yeah, gotta love the Smiths. And let's see, what about Van Halen 5150? This was pretty huge. This was the first record as Van Hagar, right, with Sammy Hagar replacing David Lee Roth, and they proved that they could stay huge and stay on the charts, and got a little poppier, but I like it, man. Best of both worlds. Love Walks In. I like the title track. Oh, Why Can't This Be Love? That was a fantastic single. Dreams, Summer Nights. There's the cat. Anyway, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. All right, couple more that I do have on CD various places, but I couldn't find some of them because I got some of my CDs in boxes. But editor can throw them up here just rapid fire. Depeche Mode's Black Celebration is great. The debut from Crowded House, really good. Beastie Boys, License to Ill, and Metallica's Master of Puppets. Those are also fantastic releases from 1986. You guys want to see the cat? Here, I'll show you the cat. Come here. There he is. Look at. Yeah, that's Kiwi. All right, fine. Go ahead. Go eat. He's eating. I interrupted his eating. All right. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. 1986. It's a good year. In the comments, uh, what do you like from 86? What would you put up there? What did I miss? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? You know the drill. Let's talk 86 in the comments. Please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. And we really appreciate you guys watching. Hit the bell for notifications, like the video, all that great stuff. And we'll see you next time.